All right, we lost the live connection again. So it's Bud again from I'm Bully Free. Got my hat that Marcus made me from Hereford, Texas. And let's see if everybody. Hello. Okay, no viewers yet. Did we lose everybody? If not. All right, boys and girls. So it's just who is watching. No viewers yet. So it's Bud Collier from Unbully Free. This is about the third time that we've been disconnected. I'd like to thank the internet. Okay, I'm on my phone. Is this Cherie? Okay, let's see. There we go. Did that get you on? Adding, it's working. Ba-bum, ba-bum, it's adding. It's trying to find you, girl. Recline.
Hello, it's me.
Hey, we
Hello,
got
hello.
it. We got it finally. All right, don't move. Don't touch anything. So Haley is watching. She's the Wisconsin chapter. So Cherie, before we get cut off, I'd like to thank you for coming on our show tonight. Evan did a lot of work getting this all together. So, Cherie, we've known each other for how long, Cherie? About 3 years, isn't
Since
it?
about 2013, I think. So it's been about 5 years.
Oh, has it been 5 years? So how did we come together to start working together? Do you remember?
Well, um, I think I found you somehow, and I was at that point I was still doing a lot of research on bullying.
Hmm.
So I just anyway, I just started talking to you about bullying, and I think it just kind of went from there.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let me introduce you for what you've done over the last few years with us. So you are the president of the Tennessee chapter for I'm Bully Free. You're an author. You have a blog that you write certain items for kids and parents. And you've written how many books now that are published?
I have written two books. One is a memoir of the years that I was bullied in school, and the other is a fiction about a lady who becomes a famous author. And well, anyway, she's bullied, and she has a past of being bullied in school, where she finally moved away, and then she comes back 23 years later because her grandmother dies and leaves her estate, and she comes back to fix it up to sell it. And when she comes back to the town, she finds that the very kids who bullied her are now they hold very powerful positions in the town, and they play a lot of political games with her, and she just refuses to go along, and it just snowballs from there.
Cool. But I'm trying to. So, do you know Laura Lynn? Doing an awesome thing.
Uh,
So, are you able to see the inputs
you,
from people that are watching?
oh, I'm sorry, Bud. What?
Are you able to watch the people's notes and stuff, the bottom of the page, or just me?
Yes, I'm able to see it.
Cool. Well, well, before we get cut off, I want to play that video that you did the other day on YouTube about telling the person that's watching this to not hurt themselves. It's about a 2-minute video. You want to do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, I'm going to switch over. I'm on my computer, and here is a beautiful video.
Hi guys, Cherie here. I am an advocate for bullied children. I'm also an author. And the reason why I took this video today is I want to encourage all of the children and teenagers that have been bullied and let them know that if you're being bullied, if you feel alone, if you feel like you have no friends, please don't give up on yourself. I was bullied in junior high and in high school, and I felt so alone. I don't think I'd ever felt more alone than I did then. I had lost all hope. I even tried to commit suicide when I was 14, and I survived. But if I died, I would be missing out on this. I mean, look at this beautiful scene. Not only that, I have the most wonderful friends, some of the most awesome ladies you will ever want to meet. And I love them tremendously, and they love me too. My point is that your situation may seem hopeless now. You know, you may feel like you have no hope, that you will never in your life make friends. I want you to know that you're wrong. You will make wonderful friends. There will come a time when you will have friends who will love you and love you for you. Because it happened for me. I have the most wonderful lady friends. We took a trip together and we are having the time of our lives. And I want you to know that you can have that too. Please don't harm yourself. Please don't give up on yourself. I want you to know that you are worth fighting for and you are worth living for. Don't give up. I promise you, you do have people that love you. You are enough. You are beautiful, you are intelligent, and you're going to make a difference. I promise you, there will come a day when you will have friends that surround you, that will love you. I promise you. You'll have a family of your own. You'll find a good mate. You'll have children. Everything that I'm saying happened for me, it can happen for you. Don't give up. You are worth fighting for, and you are worth living for. Bye.
I love that. I love that. Let me see if I can get this to turn around.
Thank
Let me see if I
you.
can get. Okay, I love that
Hi,
video.
everyone. I'm Dr. Nancy Lynn.
Hold on.
Most people know me as a holistic nutrition.
Hold on. Went to the next video. So, what inspired you to do that video?
I had been thinking about it for a while. I had been wanting to do videos for quite a while, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. Excuse me. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it in my house. I mean, that would have been boring. And so, when I took the trip to Florida with 5 of my friends, I decided to do it on the beach. I thought it would be, it'd be a good background.
I love that. Yeah, and over the years, and for people that are just now coming on, and we got Miss Vicky from California. She's got an anti-bully group. She's saying in San Diego has the highest rate of suicide of teens. And as we look at teens out there, we're seeing over 4,000 kids under the age of 18 that commit suicide.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, and
Pardon me,
over the years, Evan, yeah, go ahead. There's always delays. And then, the beauty of this, do what?
I'm trying to plug my phone because the battery's trying to go down. Okay, I think I got it.
Okay, cool. So, did we lose you? Oh, did we lose you? But see what happened here.
Okay, can you see me?
You're dark. You're like in a black box.
Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Oh, man.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're having connection problems.
We're having really crappy connection, I think.
But the beauty of it, and Evan, been watching his show on Ozark. Evan George was at us, and we've known him about we all met about the same time. But as we meet these new people, just like Miss Vicky from California, we want to be partnered with everybody. And as you know, and as we keep talking about our group, when we have an issue with a bully in another city, what do we usually do as a team?
Well, uh, usually as the teen, we usually try to, the teen or the team?
Yeah, as a team, like we got Michelle, we've got you, we got Michelle Sinclair from Pennsylvania, we've got, we've got 10 or 15 of us when there's an issue, and I'll call you for advice, won't I? And ask you what should we be doing, get your input. And some of these guys are psychologists. Some of them have a lot of information about disabilities kids. Uh, Miss Whitney's watching, so I'm watching and talking at the same time. So it's just not me sitting here at Bully Bear Central trying to fix a problem. So we'll audit the school. We'll look at what should they really be doing for those parents, and then we start
Right.
monitoring the kids. We talk to them. We're not counselors, but it's amazing that hey, it's just like with Haley. She's talked with kids. But remember, we're not counselors. If you need a counselor or a suicide prevention person, you need to call the right people. That's not our job. You know, but we've had a lot of web pages that attempted to do that. Now, if you're a trained psychologist, go
Right.
for it. But what we do is we show the parents what the school should be doing, their rights, and then that starts giving them some hope. And then we start talking to
That's
the kids off to the side, showing them videos of what you've done, right, Cherie?
right. That's right.
So
Every once in a while, I will have kids message me, inbox me, bullied kids needing somebody to talk, and I'll talk to them. I mean, I'm not going to turn them away. I'm not a trained psychologist, and I'm not a counselor, but I'm not going to turn these kids away. I'm going to give them a pep talk. I don't think there's anything wrong with that,
no,
but you're you're right about we don't do counseling, but I do like to give them a pep talk.
right. And that's and you ask them what's going on. And a lot of times, as you talk to these kids, you find out what is really going on. Is it really bullying? Or, how can we help? But when we start working with the parents and showing them what their rights are, what the school should be doing, what we've experienced,
Right.
we give the
Mhm.
parents a hope, and a lot of times, right? And then as we come to a
Right.
conclusion on what we can do with those parents, then it's a team effort. It's just not Cherie sitting in Arkansas. It's not Bud. And then we got, you
Right.
know who T. Ron Hicks is?
Yes.
T. Ron's
Yes.
on.
Tom T. Ron Hicks. Hey, T. Ron.
So he's a big advocate up in the Dallas Fort Worth area. He has, let me see, 18. I'll say 18 to 20 titles, championship belts that he's won when he's a professional wrestler. Uh, make sure parents' knowledge is again. We've teamed up. We've made videos with all of us talking to the kids, working with them. So it's more of a team effort. So tell me about your memoir book, your first book that you wrote.
Well, I have From Victim to Victor right here,
Yes.
and basically it's almost 500 pages, but it chronicles the bullying I suffered from the start of the 7th grade until after I switched schools. And I had been wanting to write this book for 30 years. My first, are you there? I just
Yeah.
paused. Yeah, I first conceived writing a book about how I was bullied back in the 8th grade. And I had started journaling. And I remember one day I had a journal removed from me by the teacher because some kids had gotten a hold of it and saw what I was writing down, and they brought it to the attention of the teacher, and the teacher called the principal in, and then the principal came in, and the teacher handed the principal my journal, and it had about 6 months worth of things in it that had happened. And I always put the date, the time it happened, and who, why, when, and where. And when the principal walked out with that journal, I never saw it again.
Yeah, and that was your evidence of
But
what had happened. So, what else was in your book? So it's a journal of your life.
So what now?
Well, yeah, I remember I read it about when you published that about a year ago, year and a half.
Yeah.
And I remember you talking about you went from being a very nice little girl to being a bully, didn't you?
I did. In the 7th grade, I had been bullied since the 6th grade when I had moved to this school after being an Army brat. And in a year's time, I went from being a nice, sweet little girl, confident, to being a bully. I mean, I actually became a bully myself to try to protect myself. I felt so powerless that I thought that the only way to grab back some of that power was to be a bully. It was the wrong thing to do. I was a kid. I did not handle things correctly.
Right. But were your parents involved when you were getting bullied, or did you hide it from them?
For a long time, I hid it from them. And then when it finally came out, understand that this was back in the 80s, and a lot of people had a different attitude about bullying back then.
Yeah, it
so
was.
my parents, they went to school. They went to the school, but they could only do so much.
Yeah, and remember all these anti-bully groups got started around 2012, for the biggest part across the
Right.
nation. And now parents in the 80s, teachers could, punish you. They could do whatever they wanted to for the biggest part. They could lay hands on you. And now there's a lot of laws that protect these kids, and kids know that. And a lot of times kids abuse that power. So, Miss.
Right. But I even had teachers that bullied me. And anytime there's a teacher involved, when a teacher is bullying a student, there's a power dynamic there. And honestly, there's not a whole lot that can be done. I hate to say that, but because of the power dynamic, that it's a teacher versus a student, there's really not a whole lot it can be done. I mean, who's going to take the word of a teacher against a student? Right?
Well, yeah, right, exactly. And a lot of times over the years, especially with the kids that are at special needs that can't communicate, we've had parents mic them up and camera them up and get that evidence. So, and especially if it's a one-party state, we sat down and talked to parents about, what you're trying to save your child's life, and if the teacher's bullying them or hurting them, I'll do about anything I can for my kids.
Right. And eventually, I was telling you that my parents did get involved for a little while.
Yes.
Eventually they gave up. They gave up because they had exhausted all efforts to try to help me. And then the frustration set in as a parent. And for not long later, they started blaming me for what was going on. Well, you have to be doing something to make these kids mad. You've got to be rubbing them the wrong way somehow.
Yeah,
and I didn't know how to respond to that.
Well, that's the old adage about a spouse abuser. Well, what did you do to make him mad so he would hit you? Right? You remember that was the attitude, and we've turned that around, right? So since 2013, since we've started working together, do you think we've made a good impact on the communities?
I think you have because
No, we as
there's
a
a
team,
lot more
our yeah, our groups, not just me, but
yes,
our
because
whole group.
coming to the groups now, we're getting a lot more input from parents of bullied kids and bullied kids themselves. We're getting a lot more impact now. So it has
Yeah.
built since.
What see, but what I'm seeing is these groups string up like Miss Vicky, Wendy, and all these guys, and T. Ron Hicks, and all of us. As parents are not asking; they're demanding for transparency of the schools. They're demanding that they follow the processes for anti-bullying instead of just sweeping it under the rug. And we're seeing
That's
more and
right.
more lawsuits. Uh, I've got 4 or 5 people that have federal lawsuits in courts. And now it's for civil rights violations. It's for all kinds of different things. So we're not suing the schools, but what we do is we sit down with the parents and start talking about, well, this is what the law should be. Every state in the United States has bully laws, and if the schools are not following them,
Right.
then there's issues like that. So uh, no longer do you just show up at the front desk and then the lady up there or the man up there that's the admin just blows you off, and then you become the bully, or you become the bully mommy that nobody wants to talk to.
Right. Right. I've seen a lot of progress there too. You know, parents are standing up to the schools more, and the
Yeah.
schools are actually backing down more. Just in the last year, I've seen stories on Facebook where more lawsuits are being filed. Uh, Another thing, Lord, I know what I was fixing to say, and then it just slipped my mind. Crap.
Well, in the state of Texas, a lot of times when you go see the school board with a complaint, which when you've got a severe, even a minor issue of bullying, you don't really know how bad it is because your kid a lot of times won't tell you the truth until you sit down with them and you find the cuts on them. You find that they need counseling, et cetera, et cetera. But in the state of Texas, a lot of times the parents only get 3 minutes to talk about their bullying issue with the board. That's pretty disturbing. So those are,
Absolutely.
how can you even, I can't even introduce myself in 3 minutes.
Right. And a lot of times, school boards, parents will go up and talk to them about their child being bullied. And as soon as they start homing in on something that the school system is guilty of, all of a sudden the school board will shut them down. They will
And no
shut them
longer,
down.
I was talking to
Right.
uh, an individual, I won't say his name, but I worked with him at NASA, and his son has special education, and he's been working, and we're finding out that if you have a complaint at a school and the school turns around and calls CPS or somebody else on, that's kind of against the law. That's retaliation against the parents.
That's
So a
right.
lot of, and we're seeing that some of these legal advice and these scare tactics are not working. A Legacies over in Katy, they're doing a lot. But what we see across the nation is the one parent that goes in there by themselves and they fight and they lose. They lose the battle real quick and quit. But we see a lot of these groups that are on and on in these rallies, things of that nature. Did I lose you again, sweetheart? There you go. So Evan,
Your sound's cutting out.
how about now? Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
plenty of.
that's a lot better.
So yeah, but as we look at, like we've got the Evans out there, we've got the Cherie Whites, we got the Michelle Sinclairs, we got the Haleys, we got the T-Rons, and all of us at one point are a team. We're family, you know. And as we, but the problem that I see across this nation is there's not a group that has any power to really do anything, like the
Right.
EPA, SPCA. See, if I shoot a dog and you complain, somebody's coming to my house, and if I've hurt that dog intentionally, I'm probably going to go to jail or get fined, right?
Right.
And same if I dump 50,000 gallons of oil out in my front yard, am I going to get fined, go to jail?
Sure. Yeah.
Possibility. But there's no anti-bully group that has any power to do anything, because it's just like when you call the school board and then you call the state school board, that's like uh, they're all in the same family tree. There's nobody, and if they don't, and if they want to cover up or whatever we want to call it, they do whatever they want to when they want to. Cool.
Right.
And
Because of sovereign immunity.
sovereign immunity and things of this nature. It's just amazing what we see, and it's amazing as we start seeing cameras that are there. They didn't work that day. I had David James
Oh,
on
right. Conveniently.
conveniently. And you see, in my opinion, those cameras that are in common areas, they're not working. That school should be fined, just like a traffic violation, but heavily fined. Heavily fined, because a lot of times they don't
Right.
even sure that they work. Sometimes that's the only evidence of what's going on. So, what else do we want to talk about?
Well, I was, we were talking about my book a while ago.
Mhm.
Anyway, a lot of my book was written from journals that I had written years ago. And then after I got out of school, I just put them away because I knew that I was going to write the book eventually. I just didn't know when. And well, back in the mid to late 90s, I started doing a lot of research online about bullying. And this was over 20 years ago. And I read stories, testimonies from people who had been bullied, from parents
Yeah.
who had had kids who had been bullied, from teachers who had seen students being bullied. And the more research I did, um, the more I realized, hey, it's not this wasn't all in my head, like they had made me to feel like it was. This was not all in my head. This happened. And the more I read, the more research I did, everything just started fitting together like a perfect little puzzle.
Yes. Hey, but we got a question from Wendy. Can you see that? Is there a
Yes,
universal anti-bully law, or does each state vary? And can I answer that one real quick?
each state varies.
Each state varies
Yes, each state
until
varies.
and each state has an anti-bully. Some has cyberbullying laws, but once you start a discrimination because of race, being transgender, gay, or the child is disabled or special needs, then it becomes a federal. Then now you can be convicted federally. And then once you push that up to the federal, then the schools no longer have sovereign immunity, kind of goes away. Does that make sense? I'm not a lawyer, but but see, if a school knows that somebody that is gay and they're getting bullied and they don't do anything about that, that's a federal offense. Is that clear? But just regular
Yes,
bullying and cyberbullying is more at the state level. But if the kids are bullying your child because they're gay or because of a race issue, then that becomes federal. Does that make sense, Miss Wendy? So, and that's how you approach it. But a lot of times bullying is, I'll get a parent that asks me, and the kid's walking down the street and somebody call the N word. Is that bullying? No, that's one incident. And right, does that make sense? I'm just reading what Joe just wrote. Cool. But go back to what you were saying,
thank you,
Cherie.
Joe.
Huh?
Oh, I was thanking Joe.
But and
Okay, I
Wendy,
can't hear you.
how about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And yeah, the beauty of our show, we can go 1 hour, 30 minutes, but the beauty is as this plays out, people know who to call. And like you said, see that little number 713-478-3049. When they call me, I ring out to, how many times do I call you a month or a week and ask you about what do you think of this? But Cherie?
Quite often, about once a week on average.
Yeah. Where I'm going, Kate, what do you think we should do here? Is this bullying? You remember there in Arkansas where the
If it's
family got,
just one, if it's just one incident, that's not bullying. That's just somebody being a jerk. Uh, for us to know it's bullying, we have to know the definition of bullying. And what bullying is, it's repeated repeated intimidation. It's repeated. If it's repeated over time and it's against one person,
yes,
then it's bullying.
and something that offends you. See, certain kids can handle the jokes, right? But
Right.
certain kids can't. But if you call me short, they've called me short my whole life because I'm 5'7" on a good day. Yeah, right. And that's not a tall, that's not a short person, but over the year I've been called midget and right. Is
Right.
that me? I'm seeing what, Job? But under IDEA would also consider bullying discrimination. What is IDEA?
Um, Now, granted, if it's one incident where somebody got called the N word, yes, it's discrimination, but it's still not bullying. But if
Right,
it keeps happening over and over and over and over again, then yes, it's bullying discrimination or
right.
discriminatory bullying. And that's
And
illegal.
right. And as we talk to the parents, it's like the kid up in Tyler, Texas that got beat up, got physically hurt, broke his jaw. There's a lawsuit later on. Uh, see that's no longer bullying. That's assault and battery. And there's a certain age in each
Exactly.
state. There's a certain age at each state where the kids, it's no longer, they can't be protected by the age clause. Some kids 7, 8 years old.
Right.
But when I start getting in my teens and I attack another kid, that's no longer, that's assault and battery. And that's how I look at the parents. So David, how are
That's
you
right.
doing tonight, David? And so as we sit here and talk and we're writing these books and all, it sure seems like we're making some dents because parents are just no longer just going away. Back in the 70s and 80s when we were getting bullied, parents really didn't talk about.
Right, because
Uh,
it was considered a normal part of childhood. Being bullied was considered a normal part of childhood.
well,
And it
as a,
wasn't until after the Columbine shootings that it really started getting attention.
right. But as an Army brat, I was also an Army brat, and I spent 20 years in them. So I spent 40 years in the military as a brat and as an active duty person. So how many times did you move during your stays in school when you were an Army brat?
Uh, well, I was an Army brat from the time I was a little bitty baby, but I moved schools, I think twice
So during your tenure?
before we
So
got out of.
yeah. So when you'd move to a new school, did you go to a military school or a civilian school?
They were civilian public schools.
And how did you fit in
There
there?
were just some military kids. All the military kids went to um, the local public school there.
Mhm. So did
And
you all,
you had your military kids, and then you had the local kids that kind of, it was separated.
right? And how did the locals treat you when you first got there? As an outsider or were they used to having an influx of new kids?
I was liked by everybody at that school. I was liked by everybody up until I moved to the school that I was bullied real bad in. In every other school, I was liked, very well liked. So,
And which
I
school or
never
state
really
was
had
that
any trouble. And
where you really got bullied? Which city?
well, I'm just gonna rename it and say Oakley, Tennessee.
Okay, so it's Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. And see, back when that was in the 80s,
Yeah,
right? See, in the 80s, there was no anti-bully laws. There was nothing. It was just crap
right.
happened and you lived with it. You know, you, when two people fought, you shook hands, they went on. Nobody went on and got guns and started shooting up the school because of incidents
That's
like that.
right.
And now all of a
Right.
sudden,
Um,
it's so.
I
What do
know.
you? So what do you feel about that? What's happened in Parkland? What happened in Santa Fe, Texas here? How could we have stopped those two kids, Cruz and Dimitri?
Well, I think the best thing to have done, if somebody could have gotten to them, is to talk to them and not only remind them of the consequences, but talk to them like this, are the bullies really worth you ruining your life? They're not worth you ruining your life. If you go in there and you shoot them, you're going to be making martyrs out of them. They've been making themselves look like victims all of their lives, pretty much.
Hmm.
They've been making themselves look like the victims and you look like the bad guy. And if you go in there and you shoot them, you're proving them right, for one. Number two, you're making them the victims.
Right. Yeah. You in your video you talked about you had depression. You attempted suicide, right?
Yes, at 14, I downed a bottle of pain pills
And
and
why
ended up in the ICU and almost died.
were you caught or did you go ask for help?
When I was being bullied, I had reported it all the time, but I was being ignored by everyone at that point.
Yeah, but no, but when you decided to take those pills, did you tell somebody you took them or did your parents find you? Is that a good question?
It's been 30 years ago, so I really can't remember that far back. I
Yeah.
think maybe I had some amnesia somewhere because
Yeah.
the next thing I remember was my mom taking me to the hospital. I really don't remember the details.
Yeah. Just like David from TKO's talking about, with the introduction of technology and smartphones, the poor kids can get bullied 24/7. You see that all the time. You remember when you left, when they
Exactly.
were bullying you, you could go home and hide behind your room. There was really, if there was no phones
I'm
with,
also a certified yoga instructor, and fitness is a really big
That's
part of my
right.
life.
right? And now what we see, and
Now kids can't get away from it.
no, you can't. Here I remember you sent me some. It doesn't feel good when you're 7 getting bullied, and now that you're 29, Cherie, you were getting cyberbullied. Remember? I remember reading some of
Yes,
those texts. By who?
yes, I got cyberbullied back in the spring by an ex-classmate, believe it or not, and I won't mention her name, for obvious reasons, but I think what happened was, well, she was one of them that kind of joined in when I was being bullied. She shunned me.
Did you write her in the
She
book?
would talk about me.
Was her name mentioned in the book
No,
or a character?
no, it was not. But I think what happened was that she saw where Pete DiLorenzo was talking about making my book into a feature film,
Yeah.
writing the screenplay and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I get a comment from her saying, instead of writing books, you need to go get help. You need to get over this bully stuff. That was 30 years ago, yada, yada, yada. And I just
Yeah.
blew her off. When she kept on, I deleted her. I thought she was a friend of mine on Facebook, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt. It's been 20 years. She's evolved. Well, I found out differently. And so when she kept on, I just deleted her as a friend. Okay. Then all of a sudden I'm getting all these inboxes. Well, why did you delete me? And, I answered her back. I said, you know why I deleted you. No, I want you to explain to me why you deleted me. And I'm like, I don't owe you any explanations. And, she kept,
Yeah, I read the
she just
text,
kept,
and you were getting texts from other people, right? From her friends, a
oh,
couple of them.
yeah, her son got on there. Her son inboxed me. And a lot of these people I didn't even know. She was using profanity, you know, just
And
F
what did I tell
bombs.
you to do? I go, just, and
And I
remember, it was
just,
only,
at that point, I just ignored them. That's when I
yeah,
blocked her.
and it was 3 or 4 people. So, there wasn't a way to really make the water ripple and millions of people hate your book and Cherie, but it's 3 or 4. That's as we talked about it. But when you're at 8, 9, 10, 11, and your hormones are running, and 4 or 5 people make a comment
Right.
about you, then it gets out of control. That's when the kids start.
Exactly, because kids don't know how to handle it like an adult does.
Right.
When I got those horrible inboxes, when I was being cyberbullied about 6 months ago, I was an adult and I knew how to handle it. But a
Right.
child
But
or
it
a
still didn't
teenager,
make you
they
feel
do
good.
not know how to handle it.
Right. Anytime you get
Right.
a negative comment about anything, well, what if you got 30 negative comments about your book, right? You would be able to go,
Right.
okay, tell me why. Yeah, we haven't had 30 negative comments, but you know that's the difference. And but you know you're never out of the woods from potential suicide. Don't give a crap what age you are, right? Because of mental illness. But
Right.
be strong, my friend, and tell your story. If you can touch and save even one life, it's a victory. That's just what David TKO and a new group that
Oh,
we've been
thank you,
working with.
David.
I thought he was talking to me.
That is sweet.
But yeah, it's pretty
Well,
close
still,
to
I
our.
think it's sweet.
Oh yeah, David's great, and we've got so many things going on out there. And is is Haley still on? Haley, are you still on? But
I don't know.
we're almost done with the show, and I'll keep posting this. But you remember the one thing that I keep telling everybody: it's not I'm Bully Free, it's not the Tennessee chapter, it's not the Wisconsin chapter. It's all of us working together. And as our
Right.
groups work together, I don't care who gets credit for the help or whatever. It's about helping that child, right? And that's what we see with a
Exactly.
lot of
It's,
these.
it's
And Evan started the I'm Bully Free TV show thing, and he's get all these guests. And if you guys really want to get on TV with us and talk to Evan or be interviewed by me or Evan, and I don't care who interviews us. Yeah, he's talking to both of you. Somebody's talking that but the intent of this, we're not a professional run screenplay thing, but if we take one child and they opt not to commit suicide tonight or hurt themselves, then it was worth our hour. You agree? If one child reads that
That's
book,
right.
if one child inboxes Cherie and the Tennessee chapter, then it was worth everything. But what I'm seeing across this country, parents are demanding transparency. They're demanding that their rights be followed and not hurt or ignored by these school boards. And sooner or later, we're,
Right.
and I keep telling parents where we are with anti-bullying is where we were in the 70s with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Remember that took how many years to get
Right.
those laws in? And in the 70s, you could be
Oh,
drunk and
yes.
kill somebody. Nothing really happened, especially if your parents had the money, if they were influential or they were somebody in that
Yeah.
town, that same town. So, do you have any last good thoughts for us tonight, sweetheart? Miss
Well,
Cherie?
um, my website is www. This is my blog, www.cheriewhite.blog. And my other website for my books is www.lulu.com/spotlight/Cherie72.
You can go back later and type that in at the end.
I'll do that.
And so,
Uh-huh.
what's the new anti-bully page that you started just recently?
It's called Cyberbullying Bites, and it's the bites is with a Y instead of an I because it's a computer thingy.
Mhm.
So I thought I would start that up strictly for cyberbullying. I've got the American Alliance for Bullied Children and Teens Facebook group, but I wanted to start a
The,
book,
the, the
pardon me,
alliance is that with Sean?
a
Is
group.
that with Sean? Is that with
So what
Sean
now?
Maloney? The Teen Alliance
No,
group.
no,
That's your own.
Yeah, the
Because
American
Sean's got a
Alliance for
radio.
Bullied Children. Oh,
Yeah, go
no,
ahead.
his is separate.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's cool.
that's his. The American Alliance is mine.
Okay.
Um, Also, cyberbullying bites. That's strictly for cyberbullying. So I thought I would start a group for that because so many kids today are being cyberbullied.
Well, very, very true. That's the new. That's going to be the new ugliness with the anti-bullying, cyberbullying. Are you still?
Right.
Can you still hear me?
Also,
Yes, go ahead.
Also, I wanted to write a book called "Young Martyrs of Bullyside,"
Hmm.
and I'm still planning on writing it, but I have to have testimonies from families who have suffered it,
How many?
and
How many
I haven't
testimonies?
got those yet, so I have to shelf it.
Yeah, but how many people have actually sent you memoirs of what happened to their child?
None. However, it's not easy for them to talk about, so
Yeah.
I understand
I
completely.
thought
I
I
understand, and
thought
I hold no ill will.
Kara had sent you something. No, Yoakum.
Yeah, honey, I'm not going to push her because she's going through a lot.
Yeah, yeah. We have a big event with
So,
her in October.
in fact, in fact, it's just, I guess I felt like I was, I kind of felt guilty because, it's just really difficult for these parents to talk about. So I think I'm just going to put it on the back burner
Hmm.
at this
Yeah.
point.
It was years ago, and I'm having a brain block on her name. She wrote a book about bullying in poems and posted it, and it was related to I'm Bully Free, and people wrote poems and talked about the bullying, a few suicide things of this nature. But I've got a call in from Adam Abera, so we're almost up for our hour. That went really fast, and I
Yes,
hope
it did.
we like to introduce you again. You've done so much. You've spent so much time with us and working with me, and I'm Bully Free in the Tennessee chapter. And you're always there for the kids. And and the beauty of what we're trying to do, we're all on the same page. You know what I'm saying? And I
That's
salute
right.
you. And you're. I love talking with you. I've never not look not forward to talking to you. I'm sure you do. Hey, it's Bud. Hang up on me, blah blah. But
Right.
we've actually starting to make an impact. Can you see it? You're starting to see
Yes,
the
I can.
input. You know, what I'm seeing across the country now is there's more talk on the news about the new principals and all these stirrups. You
Right.
used to never hear that. So, so we're holding these guys accountable, and sovereign immunity is one of those things that doesn't work like it used to, I don't think. Especially when you got the Jessica
Right.
Wells out there, you know, you got the Michelle
Yes.
Longs, you got, all these parents that are out there and they fight to the end. And then a lot of these parents, after their kids go to college, they're done for a while, but then it starts up with their grandkids. So we are out of time. Thank you, Mr. Evan Vazatis. And something
Thank you,
just went off.
Bud.
And Haley, are you still on? Well, I'm going to let you go and see if Haley's still on that wants to come on board. Let me see who's on. No, just Joe. Cool. But we've had a great time. And thank you from I'm Bully Free. And I loved your books.
Thank
I'm
you.
not a reader, but you've always got our support. Okay. Anything
All
else?
right. Thank you, Bud.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for everything you're doing.